Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this webinar hosted by the North American Development Bank. Muy buenos días a todos. Sean bienvenidos a este webinar que lleva a cabo el Banco de Desarrollo de América del Norte. Today's discussion will be in English. Before we begin, I would like to explain how to access the interpretation services for the Spanish-speaking participants joining us this morning. El webinar se llevará a cabo en idioma inglés. Para nuestra audiencia que habla español y que nos acompaña, estará disponible el servicio de interpretación simultánea. Solo hay que llamar al número que aparece justo ahora en la pantalla e introducir el código de la conferencia. Esperaremos unos instantes para que realicen la conexión quienes amablemente participan. Muchas gracias. I would also like to invite those of you who are joining us to send us your questions or comments through the participation mechanism indicated in this Zoom, or through the email address that appears on the screen. To the audience who is following the webinar through our social media channels, please send your questions by email. We are now starting our NADBank webinar, which seeks to be an accessible and friendly space to discuss topics related to the bank's functions, programs, and activities. Today, we are joined by John Beckham, Deputy Managing Director of the North American Development Bank. John, it's a pleasure to have you here.
Thanks, Oscar, and thanks to everyone tuned into our second webinar here. We're pleased for your interest in NADBank, and our goal is to share what we're seeing and what we're doing, and also, most importantly, to hear from our listeners and participants in the webinar. So thanks again for having me.
Thank you, Jan. And today we will talk about the value-added benefits of doing projects with the NADBank, and in particular, what NADBank can offer for the development of projects. John, why is NADBank a unique development bank? What makes it different from other development institutions? In other words, what is the added value that NADBank offers to trigger environmental infrastructure investment?
Well, Scott, I think the first thing that makes us unique is that we're a binational organization. We're owned in equal parts by the United States and Mexico, and we are formed by both countries with a very clear mandate to invest in environmental infrastructure on the US and Mexico border. We invest on both sides of the borders, on the United States side up to 100 kilometers north, and on the Mexican side up to 300 kilometers on the south. And the reason we do this is we understand that the environmental challenges are shared on both sides of the border, and so we're uniquely established to try to address the economic and environmental opportunities and challenges that the region faces on a holistic and integrated basis. The other factor I think that makes us different is that we are more than money. We bring ideas and knowledge. NADBank's been around for over 25 years. We've been investing in all sorts of infrastructure to improve the quality of water, distribution of potable water, treatment of wastewater, stormwater management, improve air quality through better transportation systems, road paving, and solid waste management by collecting trash and making sure that landfills are appropriately managed to reduce their emission of greenhouse gas. And other factors that work to improve the overall well-being of our communities, while at the same time creating the necessary platform for economic growth in a very dynamic region. Lastly, I think the final comment that I think makes us unique is that we work with all segments of border region communities and participants. We work with the states, we work with local municipalities, we'll work with local utilities, and we'll work with private companies, both corporations and small, middle-sized businesses. So we work with the whole strata of economic and community players within both sides of the border.
John, considering what you have explained and also taking into account that it is a binational institution, what does NADBank perform its role of being one of the main actors maintaining a dialogue among players on both sides of the border?
Oscar, I think everything we do starts with the recognition that the border region is dynamic. It gets a lot of news and a lot of attention for many reasons, not all of them good. But I think at the core, the border region is a very dynamic and interesting opportunity for both the local communities as well as the United States and Mexico in general. People, goods, services, and culture all move across the border. The Port of Nuevo Laredo is the third largest port of entry in the United States, and there's no water anywhere near that other than the Rio Grande, Rio Bravo. So I think that dynamism is something that we want to take care of, both for the immediate as well as the future. So it's at that basis that orients our discussions with all players throughout the federal, state, and local levels. The other factor that enables us and we bring to these discussions is a deep knowledge of the border region. We've been doing this for 25 years. We know players from the Pacific side to the Gulf of Mexico side and everywhere in between. And with this knowledge, it gives us a unique perspective on the economic and environmental opportunities and challenges that require additional investment. And as I said earlier, it's not just money, it's knowledge. That knowledge can translate into ideas on project and technical design, capacity institution building, public engagement so that we understand that the community impacts of a project are fully considered before their implementation. And lastly, we can come up with some interesting and viable financing structures and services that will enable the projects to meet their financial and environmental expectations.
If we were talking with the business sector, one of the questions would be, for example, what does NADBank need from them to start a project on the border? What is the basic information needed to be able to start a project?
Sure. Well, the first thing is to get in touch with us. You can do that through our website at nadb.org. But most importantly, once you want to contact us, what we're going to ask about is a business plan. What is the project that you want to implement and why? And how do you expect to do that? And that business plan should contain 3 essential elements to start with. First, we're going to need 3 years of historical information. Best case, it's audited financial information that lets us understand better the trajectory of the enterprise, what it can do, and what it expects to grow. We also want to understand the shareholders and the ownership structure of the enterprise. If it's a public entity, that's pretty clear where that lies. But in the private sector, we'll want to see the ownership structure. We'll want to see who are the key managers, their experience and their profile that assures that they have the capacity to execute the project and bring it to fruition. And lastly, we're going to want to see some projections or forecasts that demonstrate both the financial and viability of the enterprise, but more importantly, the environmental benefits of the project. That might be reduced greenhouse gas emissions, less air pollution, more efficient use of water, more efficient use of energy. The bank wants to promote a greener, more sustainable future to combat the challenges that climate change presents to both countries and the border region. So we'll need to figure out and have a forecast about how to quantify those benefits over time.
Very interesting. Due to its evaluation processes and experience, NADBank is also recognized for giving a type of certification or quality seal to the environmental impact projects in which it participates. Tell us what this quality seal means and how it benefits the projects supported by the bank.
Well, I think that the basis of this seal of quality that you indicate is something that we do want to bring to any projects in which we're engaging. And so therefore our project is based on a deep due diligence. It's not a fast process. We try to be efficient and we can work very effectively once the sponsors are organized and ready to work. But we don't shortcut the due diligence process. We want to do a deep understanding of the technical capacities, the environmental benefits and challenges that are being addressed by that investment, as well as the financial sustainability of that project over time. And so that requires a deep dive into what the project is about and what is reasonable to expect from it. If I can use a baseball analogy, we don't expect to hit a home run on every project, but we do expect to get on base with singles and doubles in every project that we undertake, and we understand that by working through the due diligence process.
Excellent. Thank you, Jan. Thank you very much. Let's move on now to the questions that we are receiving from the audience. We have one questions from Mario Galvan, City of Los Fresnos in Texas. Does the bank help communities with small loans? Do you have any financial program for communities that are less than 10,000 residents?
Yes, we do. We have a couple different projects. We do lend to small communities. We've worked with we've done transactions of as small as $1 million and change. For instance, we did a transaction for a refinancing of Ed Couch in Southern Texas. So that is, and we worked with the state of Texas to bring in some capacity building as well within Ed Couch to try to improve its financial management practices that would enable it to better serve its citizens going forward. So we do lend to those small to those small communities. For those that have less economic means, we do have a particular program called the Community Assistance Program, which is a grant-based program that we can often combine with a loan to address basic water and solid waste management projects in those communities, and those grants could be up to $500,000. We will do a deep technical analysis to make sure that the project is going to address whatever environmental problem related to water or solid waste that has been identified, but there is a $500,000 grant that can be given through that program, particularly targeted for small communities that lack the resources and wherewithal to do those projects on their own.
Thank you, John. Roxana Michaels from Imperial Valley, California. If I want to make an infrastructure project that uses the newest technology in the market, even if it's not yet being used broadly, will you consider financing projects that uses that technology?
Technology, that's an excellent question, and one we think about frequently here. The answer is not an easy one. I would say we want to finance and support new technologies, but we want to make sure it's done with a reasonable degree of certainty. So if it's a large project where the stakes are high, I think we're going to want to see some smaller scale trials of that technology before deploying them. That being said, we were one of the first banks to get involved in renewable energy. 3/4 of our portfolio is in solar or wind power on both sides of the border. We are investing heavily in new battery technologies to complement that renewable energy generation capacity. And so we take a measured approach to what the new technology is, but we do want to see some kind of feasibility to that technology before we're going to go full board on it.
Excellent. José Luis González, de la Universidad de Sonora, en San Luis Río Colorado, pregunta yo. En la zona fronteriza existe mucho desecho de aparatos electrónicos que tienen materiales que podrían reciclarse. ¿El reciclado de desperdicios electrónicos está considerado entre los proyectos que puede financiar el banco?
Love recycling. Bring us a project. We want to help make that happen. So there is no doubt in our mind that we need to invest more in recycling of electronic projects, chemicals, industrial fluids. We want to work with all municipalities so they better manage those types of wastes.
Excellent. Thank you. Jones Stevens de Tucson, Arizona. Once the bank provides the financing, does it contain to provide assistance in the construction of the infrastructure?
Absolutely. I didn't mention this earlier, I probably should have. Another feature that distinguishes our bank is that we provide long-term financing. That can be anywhere from 8 to up to 20 years. Occasionally we'll go to 30, but that's for very particular cases. And one of the features there is that we have a supervision monitoring capacity through the building of the infrastructure and through the life of that infrastructure as it pays back its financing. So we will accompany those projects over time to ensure they're working and performing both financially as well as environmentally.
Thank you. Mariana Ledesma, de la Universidad Autónoma de Ciudad Juárez. Considerando la importancia de la frontera y un mayor efecto del cambio climático, ¿cuáles considera usted serían los principales retos que enfrentará el NADBank en los siguientes años?
Sí. That is a question all organizations have to be asking themselves. How are they staying relevant to the needs of their local clients and customers, in our case, the border region? And part of that is our board of directors and our management and our team understood the challenges of climate change for the border region and the relationship between U.S. and Mexico. And as part of that, we undertook a strategic evaluation, and in November of last year, 2021, the board of directors explicitly authorized a strategy that included not just cleaning up wastewater, solid waste, and air pollution, but actually addressing a greener economy that is better adapted for climate change, both from renewable energy to having in place solid infrastructure that can mitigate the impacts of climate change. Because our region is vulnerable. It is a semi-arid to arid region, and it is vulnerable to these kinds of issues. So what does that mean for the bank going forward? Is we are interested in developing better mobility, which means more public transportation, supporting electric vehicles, supporting more efficient border crossings and ports of entry, as well as stormwater management, better storage of wastewater, better storage of stormwater, recycling of wastewater, as well as green products that are more efficient, using less energy, less water, and basically generating less waste. In a lot of ways, I like to summarize, the bank started, NADBank 1.0 before this change was cleaning up pollution. And now NADBank 2.0, after this augmentation in its strategy, is to not only just clean up pollution, but to produce less pollution overall.
Okay. We have another one from the Paso, Texas. The bank has historically been known as having a water projects and funds. Can you talk about the projects types, about the climate mitigation and adaptation?
Yes. I think those two factors go together in terms of climate change and water. We still remain a key focus on water. We're living in a drought with water scarcity and greater demand on the uses of those limited resources. So that focus on water doesn't change. What we think the climate adaptation and mitigation is when we have the water, we need to make better use of it. So that means better management of stormwater, maybe storing it, treating it so it can be better used, supporting and developing recycled water, and thirdly, diversifying the sources of water for the local communities. This is a very important in the Mexican side of the U.S. border region. So we see all those things as being necessary to adapting to climate, as well as making more robust the water resource in the region. Then there's other questions in terms of other infrastructures that, if there are bigger weather events, we'll be promoting, and we're looking at assuring that those infrastructures are resilient and tough enough, if you will, to stand up to greater weather events that may be in the future.
Thank you. Yuma from Arizona asks, you mentioned that you need to present some steps or documents to start a project. What if I don't have all necessary steps finished? Can I still come to you to get help? I hear there is some technical assistance.
Right. Sure. Feel free to get in touch with us. We may or may not be able to address the where you are, but there's only one way to find out, and that's to share what we have, and we'll say we can help you with some fill a gap in your preparation, or we can hopefully direct you to maybe a business incubator that's locally based that can help you finish up your business plan. or put you in touch with an auditor to do the audit on your financial statements. So I can't promise we're going to be able to solve every problem, but we're certainly willing to take a quick look and give you some feedback about where we think you need to go.
Excellent, John. Unfortunately, we have run out of time for questions, John. We will answer the questions that are still coming via email. With this, we will conclude our webinar today. John?
I was just getting warmed up, Oscar.
Yes, John. Could you share final thoughts with us, please, John?
Sure. Well, the U.S.-Mexico border may have challenges, as I alluded to earlier, but has great opportunities that can benefit both countries and North America in general. We look forward to being a critical catalyst for investment for a greener, more prosperous future in the border region, U.S., Mexico, and North America. Thanks, Oscar, for organizing this. Thanks to your team for organizing this. And most importantly, thanks for all the great questions that came in and our listeners. Hopefully, we've answered a few questions, and those that we didn't get to, we will shortly. Thanks again.
Thank you very much, John. And we thank you all for your participation. And we hope to see you in our next webinar. The invitation will be published in our social networks. Thank you, and see you on the next one. Thank you.